Mine's on.
Okay. It is 6 o'clock and I will call this meeting of the Lunenburg Town Council to order. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge that we're meeting in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. And before we do the agenda approval, I believe this is the first meeting for our new municipal clerk, Kayla Byrne. So introductions to her and welcome. And with that, I'll look for a motion to approve the agenda as circulated. Moved by Councillor Ernst, seconded by Councillor Sanford. Any additions or deletions to note? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, the motion is carried. That takes us on to the meeting minutes of our September 27th meeting. If I can get a motion to approve those as circulated, moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Duggan. Any errors or omissions to note? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, the motion is carried. We have one public hearing, not public hearing presentation tonight, and I see that our presenter has just walked in. We are joined by Ashley Nunn-Smith of South Shore Public Libraries to provide a community highlights presentation. Ashley, the mic is yours and you'll have 10 minutes to give a presentation followed by 5 minutes of council questions.
Are you able to? Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. I was down at the wrong door. I had to find my way around. Yes, my name is Ashley Nunn-Smith. I'm the CEO and Chief Librarian for the South Shore Public Libraries. I joined the library in June of this year. Sorry, I ran around the building, so I'm actually out of breath. And I've been making the rounds to the 6 municipalities served by the library. And I saved the best for last. You guys are 6 out of 6. So I just have a short presentation and then I'm going to finish my time with a video that we produced for our 50th anniversary. So you can move to the next slide. So whether you're just coming in to see some art or come in out of the cold and read a newspaper, there really is something for everyone at the libraries. Next slide. It's a little small to see, but I know you all have it in your packages as well. I'm pleased to say that we're second. This is a provincial map of the 9 regional library systems. We're second only to Halifax Public Libraries in terms of weekly open hours per location in the last fiscal year. So that's despite being a pandemic year. So I think that's excellent. Next slide. And then 3rd place for annual in-person visits that same fiscal year. So it's as if every resident of South Shore Public Library had visited almost 2 times. Next slide. What do you find when you visit? Obviously, our collections support family literacy, whether you read them in the library, on the bookmobile, or bring them home. Reading together as a family is obviously in many studies been shown to promote a lifelong love of literacy and prepare kids for school. Next slide. As well, the games, crafts, toys, and other things that we offer instill a love of learning and a lifelong association with the library with positive experiences. Next slide. For a lot of people who are studying or working remotely, the library is a much needed physical space away from the distractions of home. So although obviously there was a dip in our in-person visits during the pandemic, we are recovering from that now. And a lot of people rely on the Wi-Fi and the computers that we have available to help keep costs low when they might not otherwise have access at home. Next. In terms of our services, you'll see the photo there is our new bookmobile. It's a custom-built bookmobile, one of only 2 still in operation in the province, and the only one that's custom-built to be from the ground up to be a library, as opposed to a converted bus. And next slide. It launched in August of 2021. We have 18 routine stops throughout Lunenburg and Queens County, and the use does really remain high by our rural residents, so it's a great service. Next. One of the additional ways that we're using the bookmobile is through a federal grant that we received over 2 years, this year and the next fiscal year. And with that money, we are working directly with the Acadia First Nation Council to provide services, programs, borrowing on reserve for the first time ever. So that's really exciting. Next. After 5 years of planning and implementation, we just launched our new catalog in January of this year. It's called Same Page. It's a consortial catalog of 8 library systems, all the systems in the province except Halifax Public Libraries, who stayed on their own. And so with that one card, you have access to the whole province collections from Yarmouth to Cape Breton. Stuff arrives in the mail. It usually arrives pretty quickly, just in a few days. And so customers now have access to over 1 million items. Next. And in terms of our borrowing, again, expected dip during the pandemic due to lockdowns and curbside pickup, but we are rebounding. We circulated 199,000 physical items and over 35,000 digital items last year. Next. In terms of our per capita expenditure, I'm pleased to say that we're low on this chart with $27.84. And 70% of that is provincial, 27% municipal, and 3% self-generated by the board. And the next slide. On the other hand, we're again second only to Halifax in terms of collection spending per capita. So that means that we're putting more of the spending from the last slide back into the collections, where it will have a direct impact on the public by keeping administrative, facilities, and other costs low. Next slide. Yes, and so the annual borrowing per capita is also quite high. We're in third place with about an average of 4 items borrowed per, if it were averaged out per resident for the year. Next. The BookNet Canada lists the average book price between about $16 and $23 for that year, 2021. So that would represent a borrowing value of $63 to $89-ish if someone were to buy those items themselves. Next. Other services that we offer, we have distributed since December of 2021 over 220,000 boxes of COVID-19 rapid tests at Saushare Public Libraries. There's 5 tests in every box. We also offered vaccine appointment booking help over the phone and in person. Once we were reopened, we printed proof of vaccination papers when those were mandatory for a lot of dining and other settings. And then we also have a program called Caring Calls, which actually won us an International American Library Association award. And that is where staff proactively call members of our database simply to check in on them. It was really well received. We now have a roster of regulars that we phone on a weekly basis, and it really helped battle that isolation and loneliness that people were feeling in the pandemic. Next. And then I'll just finish up with our programs, just a highlight of some of the programs we offered before I show the video. So if you we'll just keep ticking through these quickly. We offered over 1,000 programs in the last fiscal year following all COVID safe protocols. These were in-person programs. Next, attended by over 53,000 individuals. Next, some highlights, babies and books. We have this at a few different of our branches. It helps promote early literacy, but also battle isolation for the parents who are at home. Next. We had a gardening club here in Lunenburg at the community garden outside of the library, one for adults and one for children, which was really well received this past summer. Next. We had our first drag queen story time on the South Shore at a library. And so this was in partnership with Lunenburg Pride, who was at the Margaret Henniger branch in Lunenburg in Bridgewater, and over 125 people attended. It was really well received by everyone who attended. Next. In Lunenburg, they had a clay club. So kids explored different types of clay and the material. And so that links into STEAM, so the science of the way the clay reacts, but also arts. Next. We had a program on Mi'kmaq, and then actually just yesterday morning, we had a book launch as well, which was attended by about 120 people in Bridgewater. This program was in Lunenburg, and it's a book that's published actually by one of our board members, Kathy LeBlanc and Dave Chapman, and it's a really excellent book that just got launched yesterday and actually sold out at the book launch, which is wonderful. Next. And we had a teen summer book club. So this was online on Discord, and it meant that teens didn't have to worry about transportation to and from the library. And the coordinator got some really cool authors to join their Zoom calls from, and again, if it's virtual, the authors can be anywhere. So that was well received. Next. Our Lunenburg Lit Festival went ahead despite it being the weekend of Fiona, with a few modifications and changes to the schedule. And that was our 7th annual. Next. And so it is our 50th anniversary. We had a party this past Saturday to celebrate. We also had a picnic during the summer. And I'm just going to end by showing a video that we produced of what the library means to residents and to staff and how we've evolved over the years.
I probably started going to the library when I was about 5 or 6, so nearly 70 years ago.
The library is a huge deal to me. People think of the library as just a place to get books, but we have so much more material than that.
It's not only about books. That's definitely an old misconception. No, we're really about everybody coming in. We are open to everyone. The library is great for seniors, but it's also fantastic for 0 and up. So we start right at the bottom with babies and books, and it's really important to get that early exposure to the library, not just for literacy skills, but it's also for early socialization. And once they're early to mid-teens, then we're talking about tablets and green screen movies and 3D printing.
We really are what the community needs us to be. And that's why we've been evolving, because as those needs evolve, we evolve with it.
Libraries aren't just for kids, they're for everyone.
We want people to feel comfortable coming here. We want people to enjoy the space. People think of the library as just a place to get books, but we have so much more material than that. We do have technology courses here at the library, and one of those classes we've offered are learning how to use social media.
We want to continue to respond to their changing needs, and that's reflected in what we collect in terms of books. It's reflected in how and what we do, so the types of programs, the types of partnerships we do. We're going to work however we can to reflect what society is changing into and what they're looking for in their next interest, and we're going to help make that happen.
I think the range of people using the library has broadened. We have people from all demographics, income levels.
We've got to fashion our service to what our public want, because we are here for them. This is what the library is about.
When we moved here 20 years ago, we found that we had a book bus right here, and we've been visiting it every Thursday since. And it's been great for my wife, myself, my 2 girls.
We need to be there for them. We need to take on board their views. What are their opinions of us? What would they like to see here in the library?
Growing up, I've brought my kids here because it starts at a very young age with toddlers here, you know, introducing them to literature and hearing people read.
Main intention is to teach STEM to kids, and we target kids especially because kids are very curious people and they have curious minds.
Libraries will always be a part of their lives because they've always saw it as a place to come and meet with people and find out information.
We fulfill the needs of different populations in a couple of ways. We've got through collections and then also through a lot of the programming that libraries put on.
Which is quite exciting because now younger people are becoming involved and finding out information and finding out how to do different things. It's more experiential, the learning.
So we, at Social Public Libraries, we have several ways that you can use our items or get our items without having to come to the library. For example, we have something we call deposits to all the homes for special care. We also have a service called Books by Mail. You can give us a call. You can pick the books out for yourself, or you can go online and pick them out, and we will send them to you by mail.
I've been a patron of the library for over 60 years. There's a lot more to the library. There's a lot of digital access to the library now. I order all of my books online. It's a great system. It's a wonderful, wonderful resource.
I think the library is headed wherever the world heads. So as new technology evolves, we'll get that technology, our staff will learn how to use it, and then we can teach the public how to use it.
If you haven't been into your library in a while, like maybe it was since you were in school, you don't know what you're missing. We really have got something for you. You might not know what it is.
The library is the best kept secret. It is, in 40 years, the price has never gone up.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to take any questions that you have.
Thank you, Ashley. Are there any questions of counselors at this stage? All right, seeing none. Thanks for your presentation.
Thank you.
That takes us on to correspondence, petitions, and proclamations consideration. There's a piece of correspondence from the municipality of the District of Guysborough for information, and there is a request for Yarmouth Ferry, a Yarmouth Ferry letter of support from the town of Yarmouth, or Mayor Pam Mood. There's a draft motion provided. If anyone would like to, moved and seconded by councillors Ernst and Sanford. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, motion's carried. All right, that takes us on to committee meeting minutes. The Project Lunenburg Steering Team minutes for September are provided for information. And that takes us on to new business. New business, the first item is item 9A, the Green Street Sidewalk Design and Cost Estimates. There's a staff report and recommendation, so I will turn it over to the Director of Engineering to provide his report.
Thank you, Your Worship. The Green Street Sidewalk Renewal Project is included in the fiscal budget for year 22-23. This report includes an update on the status of the design and Class A cost estimate to review against the budget item. So the scope of the Green Street Sidewalk Renewal Project includes the removal and replacement of the existing sidewalk on Green Street between High and Victoria Streets. So the status of the design. The new sidewalk design meets the criteria based on the following items. It increases the width from 4 feet to 5 feet and adds tactile warning strips to better align with accessibility requirements. Sections of the existing sidewalk are in poor condition, and the new sidewalk would improve this considerably for pedestrians requiring access to the hospital, Blue Nose Academy, and Victoria Road via Green Street. The increased width shall also better support the snow clearing practice with the existing plough equipment the town owns. As I'm sure all of you are aware, Green Street runs up and down a relatively steep hill, but the drainage patterns across the right of way are fairly inconsistent as you go down the hill. The design as it is looks to maintain these existing drainage flows, but it can't improve them within the scope of the sidewalk only. Upgrades to the stormwater system and further improvements to the road would be required to properly address this issue. So we'll move on to the budget and the Class A estimates. So the amount approved in the 22-23 Public Works capital budget for the Green Street sidewalk renewal is $115,000, including the net HST. The consultant we are working with has provided a Class A estimate for their sidewalk design of approximately $325,000, including net HST. So a significant shortfall exists within the budget. We are also approaching the part of the construction season where costs associated with concrete work raise further with the winter conditions. So we'd be into items such as heating and tarping. So staff recommend that the work be deferred until the 23-24 fiscal budget to avoid added budget impact. As I said earlier, the 22-23 Public Works capital budget for the project is $115,000, and it's estimated $210,000 of additional funds shall need to be sourced within the 23-24 fiscal budget in order to proceed with this work. If the scope was to be expanded to include the storm system and the road infrastructure upgrades, this budget would need to be increased further. There is a draft motion for your consideration.
Thank you, Tyson. Are there any questions at this stage? Councillor Sanford.
Thank you, Tyson, through the chair. Just thinking about the part of the update that talks about the drainage patterns, and here we're talking about upgrades to the stormwater system and further improvements to the road would be required to properly address the issue. Do we know how far away we are from doing something of that nature?
So we are going through the GIS master plan.
Sorry, Tyson, your mic's not on. If I can impose on the deputy mayor to just turn the one off there. Or are we allowed to run two at once?
Apologies. So we are going through the GIS master plan, which will help us to identify the critical infrastructure in our system. So potentially Green Street would be one of the items identified there, but till the study's complete, it's hard for me to say whether it would or it wouldn't.
So when do we anticipate the study to be complete?
The schedule for that is the middle of next year. It would be complete.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions? Councillor Halverson, sorry, it's always hard to chair these hybrid meetings.
Yeah, it's tough. Thank you. Through the chair. Basically, I just want to follow up on what Councillor Sanford was asking about. That's not an insignificant increase in the amount we're looking at on this project. And I guess, I mean, until the study is complete, what I want to know is, I mean, if we're going to add $250,000 onto this thing, would that cost be spread? If we were to do the other project, once we get that information in the middle of next year, would there be savings realized by doing that project at the same time, so that we wouldn't be devoting $250,000 just to the sidewalk? Would that money be used towards, part of the road as well? And could we save by doing more work in the same area at the same time?
Through the chair, potentially coordinating scopes. There's an opportunity for efficiencies with overhead items like traffic control and management fees, that kind of thing. But I feel that the sidewalk budget is the budget for the sidewalk, and the storm infrastructure, if that was something we wanted to pursue, or the road upgrades. The civil work would be over and above the 325. So there would potentially be some overheads, combining scopes, savings, as opposed to doing 3 separate projects. If you did one as the storm, one as the sidewalk, one as the road upgrade. But I don't see a lot of money savings in terms of the sidewalk itself.
So better than to just get this done, get it over with. At what we're seeing is, wildly fluctuating pricing. So if we've got guaranteed pricing on this project, adding the $250,000 could potentially save us money down the road.
Yeah, I think one thing to remember is that a Class A estimate is an estimate based on the current market conditions. So this Class A estimate was composed recently, so it's capturing the current conditions. So I know we've talked about in previous meetings trying to get work out earlier and get more competition and hungrier contractors. So potentially getting it out early next year is the best time for us to get the best price. The estimate is no guarantee. Guarantee of the pricing that we would get in a competitive tendering process, but it's the best information we have.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Anything further? Councillor Sanford.
Just interested to understand the level of disruption. If we did the sidewalk, like I'm sitting here trying to figure out, is it better to do everything all at once and have it done? Or is it better to do it in pieces? And I'm thinking, I'd hate to see the sidewalk done and then we have to take that back up because we need to do stuff on the road that has an impact, it has some level of impact on the sidewalk and so on. I don't know if that happens, but I'm wondering, is it better to do everything together, or is it better to do it separate? in your opinion?
In a perfect world, it's better to do everything together because the design captures all the components at once. I think you're correct with storm infrastructure. It's typically with the crown of the road, your storm infrastructure and your catch basins are typically in the curb line, which you need to excavate to put these things in, and then your sidewalk is a few feet behind that. So I'm thinking that you can dig holes for street upgrades or storm infrastructure without interfering with the sidewalk isn't very realistic, and it imposes restrictions on contractors, which in turn delays them from completing the work as quickly as they can. If the sidewalk wasn't there, like start low and finish high. So if the budget is available for you to do everything and all the other intangibles line up, then in my opinion, yes, it's better to do it all at once and have a design that's in synergy, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we can leave that to staff. I know the revised capital plan should be coming for us soon. And just to know, all we're talking about here is carrying over the project to another fiscal year. Councillor Halverson, Councillor Duggan.
Wrong person. What, if any, issues would it cause for emergency vehicles headed up to the hospital? Is that one of the main streets that they access to get there? I'm just wondering about like what Susan and Ed are saying with having to do work to that road twice minimum sort of thing is what it sounds like. Is that going to cause a longer, drawn out issue with accessing emergency services going up there?
So typically at the start of the work, emergency services would be notified of the work and any restrictions to access, such as single lane conditions or road closures, anything that could impact them that way. The sidewalk project itself may not have direct impact on the access, but it would be up to us to stipulate any conditions on the front end of the tendering, which may or may not have impacts on the cost. If it impacts the contractors, if they consider it impacts their productivity and maybe it increases the schedule, but it would also be on the contractor to have the traffic management in place that's safe for the public, safe for all of us in town, emergency vehicles and their workers and pedestrians. So, okay. Is that everything, Councillor? Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? All right, there's a draft motion provided. If anybody would like to move it, moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Birtles. I just note a small what I believe is a grammatical error. I think that should say with funding from capital reserves. It's not listed in the motion in terms of surplus asset reinvestment. So can we take that as an amendment by unanimous consent? Yes. Okay. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? The motion carried. And Councillor Halverson, you were in favor there? Our usual timing issues with being in hybrid setting. That takes us on to item 9B, the municipal boundary review application. There's a staff report and recommendation there. I will hand it over to staff to present their report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Under the Municipal Government Act, every 8 years, each municipality must conduct a review of polling districts and boundaries and number of councillors, excluding the mayor. 2022 is that year. As council will recall, there was a staff report on August 9th outlining the process of the review and making recommendations to be brought to the public for consultation. A fact sheet and advertisements both online and in the local newspaper went out to the public, including a survey. A public information meeting was then held on September 13th. Subsequent to that public consultation, the application to the Nova Scotia Utility and Review Board has been prepared for council's approval. The MGA states that for a town which has not been divided into wards or polling districts, Form D should be used. I'll show you now the active Form D as one section of it scrolls, which you can't see in the PDF of your package. Just click over to it. It's just this little section here. So you can see what the one line is. The number of councillors elected should be confirmed for the following reasons. 63.6% of respondents to the public boundary review survey agreed that Lunenburg has the right number of councillors. Reasons varied from workload, time demands, wider range of skills and experience, diversity in decision-making, and achieving quorum. Sorry, there we go. In essence, public consultation supported the recommendation that the town of Lunenburg remain a single polling district identified by the town boundary and that the town continue to elect 6 councillors. The application must be submitted before the end of the calendar year. Once it is submitted, the NSUARB will schedule a public hearing to be held here. There is a question of whether council would prefer to engage the town solicitor to represent the town at the hearing, as there may be legal or procedural issues that arise during the course of the hearing, or whether the mayor or CAO or designated staff perform this duty. 2 draft motions are provided for council's consideration, one to approve the application and one to determine the representation at the NSUARB hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Any questions at this stage? Seeing none, it's anybody's pleasure to move. We can start with the first motion. Moved by Councillor Sanford, seconded by Councillor Ernst. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Second motion is a staff recommendation, I presume, that the town solicitor be engaged to represent the town at the hearing. Is there a councillor willing to move that as circulated? Moved by Councillor Ernst. Is there a seconder for that? Seconded by Councillor Bertels. Any discussion or debate? Councillor Sanford.
I'm just wondering if if this is something that has to be done by the solicitor, could it be done by CAO?
Through Chair to Councillor Sanford, that's the exact question. I believe I could undertake that. However, I think it's also been past practice for the municipal solicitor to do it, but I'm perfectly capable to look after it myself.
Okay. Any further discussion, questions? All right, it has been moved and seconded that the solicitor be engaged. All those in favor of engaging the solicitor to undertake this work? Those opposed? Motion is defeated unanimously. All right, that takes us on to item 9C, the noise bylaw exemption request, the Lunenburg District Fire Department. I will turn it over to staff to present that application.
Matt, I'm just going to step out.
Yes, and we have Councillor Bertels declaring a conflict on that.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. The Lunenburg District Fire Department has submitted a noise bylaw exemption request for the evening of Friday, November 4th, for about 10 minutes between 7:30 and 8 p.m. The request is a celebration of Guy Fawkes Day in memory of one of their active members who passed away last year. Mr. Lobb, who was also a member of the town's Heritage Advisory Committee, hailed from England originally. As they note, the fire department will be on hand for public safety. Noise is the issue for consideration. There is a draft motion for council's consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions at this stage? Seeing none, is it anybody's pleasure to move the draft motion as circulated? Moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Duggan. Is there any discussion or debate? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, the motion is carried. All right, that takes us on to the Tennis Club Laugh grant application, and I will give the floor over to staff to present that application.
Thank you, Your Worship. The town has received an anonymous donation to the Laugh Fund, And the donor was requesting consideration that it be directed towards the tennis club for this project. So this is the tennis club following up, requesting council's consideration for the same.
Okay. Anybody's pleasure to move that motion is circulated? Moved by Councillor Duggan, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Questions, comments, discussion, debate? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Finally, in our public meeting, we have 9E, the Lunenburg Board of Trade Light Up Lunenburg Special Events Application, and I will turn it over to staff to present that app. Oh, yes, to present that application, and we have Councillor Ernst declaring a conflict on that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Lunenburg Board of Trade has submitted a special events application on behalf of the organizers for the series of holiday events that are scheduled for the weekend of November 25th and 26th. This is a very popular series of events that both residents and visitors enjoy every year. Friday events include an outdoor movie and lighting of the Vessels event. Saturday events include an outdoor market all day on King Street and the Santa Claus Parade along with the tree lighting ceremony in the evening. Sunday is currently free of events except for the rain date for the parade in alignment with Bridgewater. The application also includes decorating items such as the snowflake lights along the downtown core, Christmas trees, the lobster trap tree on the waterfront, and use of the Heritage Bandstand for music. It's important to note that the Board of Trade co-present these events in partnership with the Fisheries Museum of the Atlantic, Coco Mayo, Stephen Ernst, and the town itself. Our town crier will be present both days. There are additional elements such as bleachers that staff have purview over lending out. These are omitted from this application. In summary, the application requests use of town electrical services, use of town labor to hang snowflake lights, transport market booths, Santa float and lobster traps, set up Christmas trees, use of the Heritage Bandstand, use of the community center as a rain location for the Fisheries Museum's outdoor movies, street closures and traffic control, Friday on Blue Nose Drive, Saturday on King Street between Cumberland and Lincoln, and Saturday for the parade route. There are financial implications. There is an ask of $500 toward prizes for the holiday decorating contest. There are electrical costs. I'm not sure if the finance director has that or not. And hard external costs are an anticipated potentially $5,000 plus for traffic control for those 2 days. Rental of the Heritage Bandstand is $20 an hour, which could be waived. Rental of the community center as a backup space for the Fisheries Museum's movies is $38 an hour, which could be waived. The main concern with this space, other than cost, is that it is high rental season on a weekend leading up to the holidays. And of course, town staff labor. Insurance is provided by the Board of Trade, Fisheries Museum, and Rotary Club. A draft motion is provided for council's consideration, and the director of the Board of Trade is in the audience if there are any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Any questions of staff at this stage? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Worship. I know we've done this before in the past. Is there anything really in addition this year? It just seems like a lot more, certainly detail than we were getting before.
Heather?
There's not really new elements. We are getting more detail than before, as there's people that are working on the organizing committee that are a little better at getting everything written down than we may have had in the past. And but the newer element remains the street closure question.
Okay, any further questions? There. Oh, sorry, Councillor Halverson.
Thank you. To the Deputy Mayor's point, I do appreciate the extra detail here. It's much appreciated seeing what we're actually in for. It's great. I look forward to seeing that in all the applications when people submit things. To the mayor's, I guess it was Heather's point there. The newest thing here, it seems to be the sticking point here seems to be the road closures, and this has only come up over the last year. And I don't think it's ever come to light the actual costs involved with trying to close streets for these events. And obviously we want these events to go ahead. They're an integral part of festivities for the holiday season for the town. And, they're a time-honored tradition. I'm just concerned. I mean, this $5,000 is a lot of money. And I'm by no means am I saying we shouldn't be involved in that, but I think I'm concerned that we're getting, it gets thrown at us, just directly ahead of the event. I would prefer, if especially an amount like this would to come to council well in advance so we can approve it as part of a budget item, as opposed to trying to scramble to find the money at the last minute to try and make an event happen that's important to the town. And I guess I would look to perhaps maybe the CAO to provide some direction. What would be the best way of accounting for this, for the $5,000 in street closure, I guess, money or money in lieu?
Through the chair to Councillor Halverson, thank you for the question. I suppose it's a question. Unfortunately, the town does not have a policy that would regulate if the applicant is to pay this themselves. In my experience, that's typically what happens. Applicants pay for that extra cost themselves. We simply donate the 500 in this case and staff time that it would take to see this come to fruition. The organization has, for the most part, in every event, moving forward in the past where there was a requirement for road closure, we've paid for it. We are adjusting and reworking policy so that this can also be budgeted for if needed and made a decision at a staff level. Unfortunately, as it sits now, most of these items require council's approval to move them off. So aside from how we've always done it to now, and I know everybody hates that phrase, we have no tool available to us other than to go through a process like we are now until our policy's been created. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. All right, there's the draft motion circulated. If there are no further questions, Deputy Mayor moving the motion. Seconded by Councillor Birtles. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, the motion's carried. We live in hope of a day when these can just be done at the staff level. All right, I need a motion to meet in camera pursuant to section 22(2)A of the Municipal Government Act, moved by Councillor Duggan, seconded by Councillor Birtles. All those in favor? Opposed? We will reconvene in camera with council's unanimous consent. We'll take a 10-minute recess.